To slop or not to slop? That is the question. I quoted Shakespeare. Today's video, we're going over 5 tips for how to not market with AI slop. So to highlight the problem, let's rewind 3 years, right? 3 years ago, if you ask people about AI, they would make big references to Terminator and sci-fi films, and AI for most people was perhaps decades away, if ever going to be some sort of a real life phenomenon. Today though, AI is everywhere. And I remember one of my very smart entrepreneur friends, his reaction to AI becoming as ubiquitous as it has was, yeah, Matt, I just don't even consider that AI. I think it's just sort of some sort of a weird chatbot. I think true AI is much more, autonomous, and it's able to do more, think more, act in more human ways. And the progress, though, since that point, early on in November of 2022, the ChatGPT moment has been tremendous. But it's been tremendous often in a negative way. AI is becoming an invasive nuisance to online ecosystems and online platforms. I mean, from personal experience, I can tell you, and perhaps you've noticed this too, that customer service really isn't any better. If anything, it just feels like another layer of just annoyance to get through, of bureaucracy. YouTube is somewhat worse, it seems. I mean, these automated YouTube channels that are still sometimes recommended, it just makes me question, okay, is this AI saying this? Because if it is, I don't want to watch it because I don't value it, as we'll talk more about as part of the problem here coming up. And Google itself, because of ChatGPT and seeing ChatGPT for the threat that it is, to their business, they incorporated AI overviews very quickly into search, and they're moving people gradually towards the chatbot type of experience that they call AI mode. So the result of that, though, is that businesses, website owners are getting between 50 to 80% less traffic. This is something that I recorded a video about quite recently. So if you're interested in that topic, I encourage you to check it out. And quite recently, at the time of recording of this video, OpenAI launched Sora 2. Sora 2 is both a text-to-video AI model, but also they are calling it, they have sort of a separate mobile application that is like a social network where people can generate AI videos with their AI text-to-video foundation model and then share them, sort of like TikTok for AI slop, if you want to be rude about it, I guess, from their point of view. Now, seeing AI just exploding everywhere and everyone talking about it, our response to this as business owners is what most people are saying is, wow, should we AIify our business right now, and to what extent? We need, you need an AI plan, I've been hearing since November of 2022. The irony, though, is that, as I mentioned, AI, whatever it's able to automate, it immediately gets devalued. It commoditizes it, and it just shifts the bottleneck in any business to somewhere else, which is just inevitably what always happens whenever some sort of bottleneck forms and then is then opened up. A bottleneck happens somewhere else in the business, just like in terms of building your marketing funnel, for example. Simultaneously, if we just think forward a few steps from where we are today, you'll realize that as all companies generally grow to adopt AI in the most practical ways, again, part of the tips that we'll talk about coming up here in a second, as all companies gravitate towards adopting it in practical ways that actually, do help with productivity and alleviate some bottlenecks here and there. If everyone adopts it, if all companies adopt it, then really no one is going to gain necessarily any sort of special advantage. We're still going to need people with their own unique life data sets and personalities and intriguing little peccadillos and preferences, to have taste, to be tastemakers, to have that higher order level of judgment of knowing, okay, if you phrase it this way versus this way, it just is going to be interpreted as something completely different, given the context, given the market, given what we're selling, to whom we're selling, the time that we're selling, in the market that we're selling, with everything incorporated. And just to be able to synthesize all that information creatively to output something that is inherently better, that is inherently unique, that is constantly evolving based on the market, based on current trends, to create something that is going to get noticed, something that people will in turn value higher, something that isn't AI slop. So the phrase AI slop is a powerful branding tool by itself. I'm actually curious at some point to look up who first coined the term AI slop, because there is a ton of it all over the web today. And some of it, you may have gotten a chuckle from. For example, an interesting cat video about, I just saw one in preparation for this where it was a father cat raising a son cat, and the story progresses, and the father cat is working hard, and the son is starting to grow up and learn and have memories, and then boom, the father cat gets hit by a car and dies. um, and so the son cat goes on and blah blah blah. But what is AI slop? Let's just get a working definition for the sake of this video, because AI slop is, I think we can all agree, something negative. It's something that we want to avoid our marketing resembling in any way, right? So of course I went to the source in deep preparation for this video. I went to Claude, which I think is a superior AI chatbot and AI model compared to ChatGPT, in my opinion. Here's what Claude had to say. AI slop is low quality generic content that's mass produced by AI with little to no human oversight or editing. It's typically bland, sometimes inaccurate, and often floods platforms or websites to game algorithms and generate quick revenue. Here's an example. A website filled with dozens of barely coherent recipe articles like 10 best ways to cook chicken, where each recipe has awkward phrasing, like chicken is a protein that many family households enjoy consuming. Repetitive content across articles, factual errors, and weird AI-generated images of malformed food. The site exists only to attract search traffic and show ads, not to actually help anyone cook. What Claude gave me here, I think, is really a powerful metaphor, saying the term slop conveys that it's the digital equivalent of throwing low-effort content into a pig trough. It didn't use the word pig, but pig, I think, just makes it even more visual. Like you have a trough on a farm that feeds what animal, right? It feeds pigs. Into a pig trough, cheap, mass-produced, and of questionable nutritional (parentheses informational) value. It's become a concern because it can drown out high-quality human-created content online. Will it actually drown out high-quality human-created content? It remains to be seen. I think it's a quick digression worth making, that to say that these platforms, they have an incentive to make sure that people on them don't get bored, that they spend as much time as possible. So they're going to be having their own AI slop tools, you can say, so that it's actually easy to detect when people are making these, by embedding little hidden messages and data so they can identify what is AI generated content and what is not. Because honestly, the novelty on these things, the half-life on it, it's just going to decay very quickly. We're still in the novelty phase for a lot of it, because there'll be like some new application of it. For example, I saw someone generating memes from like biblical times of, for example, Noah and his ark, or Roman times, for example. Or Jesus even like sitting in the tomb before the resurrection, and he's just kind of chilling, and he's like on his iPhone or something ridiculous. So while these AI models are capable of outputting content that can look high quality in quotes and intriguing, once the content is recognized as something that was created by AI and not by a human, there's often this feeling that something is missing. And what is missing is just like that inherent value, like that judgment, that human touch. Because if something can generate infinite images or videos of whatever you want, well, the novelty and the perceived initial value of like, oh my God, like if a human was to do this, it would take, hours upon hours, hundreds of hours. But then it's like, oh, it's AI. Okay, well, it's doing this, millions of times per day for other people probably. So, I'm over it. So again, the principle here is that what is interesting and novel in regards to what AI can create quickly loses its appeal and therefore its perceived value. According to trendwatching.com, 59.9% of consumers doubt online authenticity due to AI content flooding feeds. And from artsmart.ai, 52% of consumers report reduced engagement with content they believe is AI generated. So this brings us to the question, as AI continues to improve and become more realistic to the point where we cannot distinguish between what is real and what is human made, how does this affect our marketing as business owners and as entrepreneurs? Well, honestly, it seems to me like we have three choices. We can embrace it, we can reject it, or we can do some sort of a hybrid, partially embrace it. So the question is, should you incorporate it? Well, really, it's a matter of taste and judgment and aesthetics, okay? So there isn't like one right answer, but AI content, it's already branded and it's going to only just increase this brand as something that is cheap. The words AI slop haven't even gone mainstream yet. I think this concept is still percolating through the zeitgeist, right? So it feels cheap, and that goes back to the perceived value issue. So do you want to cheapen your brand when it is pretty easy to the increasingly discerning eye of the everyday consumer? Do you want to add AI into it and it can just feel aesthetically inconsistent? It can just have that kind of uncanny feeling, or even just something, it's a scene that's like fantastical and somewhat far out, even if it's subtle, and a subtle sort of like difference in terms of like how it, with Sora 2, for example, it's pretty accurate with, movements of the body and the general physics of, whatever world scene you are creating for it. If I wanted to create a scene where I'm walking on, an ice shelf in Antarctica, and there's a giant whale, jumping up and falling into the ocean in the background, yeah, people are going to know that that's AI. Not just because the face and the body might be a little bit different or awkward or off, but it is quite fantastic, such a scene, right? So you can even argue that doing less in terms of something like that, adding that into a YouTube video, for example, would actually be more believable and more trustworthy in the long term. Kind of ironic, and here's another way to think about it, if it's not fully clicking for you. To use an analogy, which is not necessarily persuasive, but I think it can help us to understand for the sake of argument. So do you value what a business coach would say who built and sold a successful business in his life experience versus an AI chatbot trained generally on business coaching knowledge, right? So in the one case, the coach actually lived it, versus the AI just memorizing data patterns with words. Now, the AI chatbot might have an insight or two, but it does not have that unique experience in the real world of actually achieving the thing that it may be trying to advise you and coach you about. So therefore, the one-on-one time with the coach is still going to be valued much, much higher. But what if we change the scenario? Well, let's say that we asked the average college grad a question about how to grow a successful business, and he went and read the top 10 articles about growing a business like yours and just summarized it. Again, comparing that to the coach who lived the experience versus the college graduate who, in this metaphor, is kind of just a stand-in for AI, because AI is often just doing its own little research, summarizing other people's information and trying to synthesize it with its own, based on its own data that it was trained on. Again, whose advice is going to be more valuable? You could make the argument that in this case, the chatbot could provide more valuable information, but in terms of depth, in terms of nuance, and also, assuming that, all else being equal in terms of teaching ability, most likely the perceived value, at least in this scenario, the human coach is going to be seen as significantly more valuable still. So all this leads up to the tips. And tip number one, for this reason, is to say that a full embrace of AI for text, image, audio content, it's out the window. You cannot do a full embrace of AI in terms of your marketing. Early marketers, you might be tempted by, hearing about different case studies and, different anecdotal, like, oh my God, I grew my Instagram by to 1 million followers. And early marketers, they will achieve some success in some verticals, and some already have. But when everyone can do it, the novelty is going to die fast. So it might be tempting. You can run a test in terms of, social media, right? But the novelty has died or is dying or will die fast. The data to support this is that according to ArtSmart.ai, half of surveyed consumers can correctly identify AI-generated content with awareness rapidly increasing. And 60% of marketers using generative AI are concerned it could harm their brand reputation due to bias, plagiarism, or values misalignment. Tip number two is that a partial embrace of AI in terms of how you incorporate it into helping you to execute on your marketing, it can work, but it also might not. For example, I saw a big name brand who I will name here in a second, he harmed his brand just the other month when I noticed that after many years of having excellent articles that were just well written, well edited, and I knew that the articles weren't always him. I mean, he may have outlined them or talked through them or helped to edit them or rewrite them, whatever. Just because of the sheer volume of articles was staggering over years. So I definitely respect him, admire him as an entrepreneur and as a marketer for that. But Neil Patel the other month, he harmed his brand, at least in my eyes, and I respect Neil. I admire him as an entrepreneur and what he's done over the years. But he harmed his brand when I saw this email that was clearly AI generated. It was a little difficult from the email, but then I clicked through and I actually read the article because he's not sending articles so often to his email list, or maybe I'm just segmented some way. But anyway, I clicked through to read this article and it was very different. The tone was very, very different. The style is very different. It did not teach in anywhere near as an effective way as his articles used to teach when he and his team were not using AI. And I'm not sure if they were aware of that in terms of the data. If you know Neil, maybe you could let him know for me. I think that's a good example of where even using it means that it might not work out, that you can actually harm your brand. And people are aware. People know about AI. AI is mainstream today. So people are very aware. And if they're questioning your content rather than just kind of like taking in the information and actually gaining the benefit that you intend for them to get from it, and instead they're being distracted by, all right, well, that wording is a little bit awkward, or, you know, I'm really not kind of getting anything from this article. It's kind of feels like it's bullshitting me. What could have possibly written this? Oh, it's probably AI, edited or written. So be aware that while partially embracing AI in your workflow for marketing, it can work. It can also harm your brand potentially. So now with tip number 3, we come to the point where, okay, we know that AI can probably do some stuff that is useful, but we want to incorporate it in a way that is smart, that is not going to harm our brand, that if anything is just going to help us to be more productive in terms of our marketing, while also still, you know, helping to bring in leads and more awareness. And, you know, in the case of content like a blog article that teaches, that it still teaches, if anything, more effectively. So how do we do that? Well, in terms of mindset, you want to see yourself as the tastemaker and AI as the tool. You are the tastemaker, AI is the tool. And based on the way that AI works, it only gives you back something relative to how you use it, to what you put into it, to what you request back from it. So you want to see it as a tool to use incrementally in your business and in your marketing, all right? Because in the future, like if you go all in, this is the reason why you do not, once again, want to just do a full embrace or just say, okay, like there's a big chunk even it's not the whole process, Matt. I'm just gonna give it this big chunk right here of just, we got the outline, we got the research. It's just gonna draft the whole article, right? No, I do not recommend that. Incremental being the key word here, because in the future, everyone is still gonna have access to roughly equally powerful AI, okay? And that being the case, the more segments of your workflow that are just dominated by AI, especially if it's like a key segment like that, where it's going to really define and shape the tone, you know, the little nuanced details that are going to be missing in terms of personality or emotion or a joke or just a little side commentary or just a little phrasing of the words that almost feel like a reaching out of the hand to engage the reader, to make sure they get the idea. That can be missing. And if everyone sounds the same because everyone is using AI to write in a similar manner, in a similar style, even if the tone is different, people are just going to keep leveling up in terms of their ability to detect AI generated content. So how to do this the right way? Well, if you are the tastemaker and AI is the tool, you want to look for something in your marketing workflow that is very repetitive and well-defined and low judgment to start. AI can work really well for those types of tasks. It can free up your time to focus more on those higher value creative judgments involved in terms of, like, you know, the positioning of things, the color of things, the wording of everything in terms of the copy. If something though is complex, requiring medium levels of judgment and taste, AI might not be a great fit. So be very careful if you choose to incorporate it for those types of tasks. For anything requiring high levels of taste or judgment, or something that is just generally complex, I would say it's a no-go, at least for a while. Once again, you are the tastemaker, AI is the tool, and you want to proceed incrementally. Tip number 4 is to use AI with some of the original use cases that it became most popular for, which is generating ideas, brainstorming, editing, and doing research. Okay? Because in these scenarios, you're still positioned as that creative tastemaker, okay? Because you know your product or service and you know your market. And because if you're just relying on it to create the bulk of everything and you're just kind of skimming and scanning it, it's not going to work out well. It's not going to output something that is of quality. So have it start supplementing your work and use it to amplify the message that you would otherwise naturally give in the tone and style that you would naturally give it in. And finally, pro tip number 5, if people in your audience can tell from your marketing, from your videos, emails, website, ads, that you are using AI, they will generally care less and less over time. They will convert less overall because, again, there's that cheapening effect as people just become more aware of this, better able to spot what is AI, what is not. And you're going to harm your brand, yeah, but if people can tell that you're marketing with AI and they're going to be distracted by that fact, you just got to assume that you're doing it wrong, because it's similar to research that I've read about stock photos, right? So there are multiple A/B tested case studies that I've come across. They're part of our info product that we put together and we have on our website. It's called the Proven Sales Conversion Pack. We sold this because it was like hundreds of case studies packaged and analyzed and put together in like a searchable database. And at least 3 of the case studies I came across talked about stock photos, the use of stock photos, because with these 3 case studies, they found that authentic photos, so photos that were like real and more human, versus the stock photos, which were like a guy like going to work in a suit, like I'm going to go to work, right? And I'm part of a team and is surrounded by other people who are just kind of like fake posing or whatever they're doing. It's like there's an idea being conveyed there through the image, yeah, but what did people actually come to think? Like it ended up feeling commercial because people could ultimately spot those stock photos very easily over time. And people don't like what feels commercial. People like to buy from people. And I mean, and you can see it in terms of just the examples of, for example, automated YouTube channels. And there's all this hype around like, oh, you could have a faceless YouTube and like make, tens of thousands of dollars or whatever the hell. Sure, for some, and for now, but it's not going to last. I mean, the channels that are sustainable are the ones that are inherently human, having a human face and a human touch to the copy, the script, the delivery of everything. People like to buy from other people. People want to connect with other people. People want to feel understood by other people. And this is also, what you see in persuasive copywriting. There's a sense of understanding and connection that comes through in content as well, or doesn't if you're using AI. So AI should enhance and amplify what is unique about your marketing content in the way that you execute it, okay? So it should be adapted into your workflow, starting incrementally with those use cases where it is, where the work is well-defined and there's low judgment. If it can easily do all of it, again, then all of your competitors just can rip you off in 2 seconds. And then the marketing gets tired faster and you stand out less, blending in with other offers and other types of content. So to recap, number 1, a full embrace of AI for text, image, or audio content. A full embrace is out the window. Don't do it. Number 2, a partial embrace can work, but it depends on to what extent you do it and how you do it, because just in the case of Neil Patel, for example, his brand was harmed, in my book at least, when he produced content that was just clearly written by AI. And it just seemed to lack authority. It's like this AI doesn't have the hands-on marketing experience of Neil or his team. So I don't want to read this content. And I clicked off of it. I'm actually considering unsubscribing now from his newsletter. Number 3, you are the tastemaker and AI is the tool, and you can incorporate it into your workflow incrementally, looking for those repetitive use cases where it's easy to just bring it in and can do a pretty good job. Tip number 4 is to use it for those original popular use cases. Because for the longest time, most people are just using AI. One of the number 1 use cases was generating ideas, brainstorming, but also editing and research. And number 5, if people in your audience can tell that you're using AI, you're doing it wrong, you're kind of shooting yourself in the foot, because this is going to come back to hurt in terms of just people caring less over time and converting and buying less over time. And speaking of AI versus human capabilities, one thing that AI kind of can't do in theory is to smash that like button. If you got value from this video, please consider doing that. Leave a comment. I would love to hear from you. And if you don't know, my name is Matt. I'm the founder of Grobo.com. I'm creating these videos for your benefit. So I hope you found this valuable. Let me know. I'd love to hear from you. And if you are a business owner or an entrepreneur, check us out at Grobo.com because we provide an on-demand marketing fulfillment team. We give you the ability to delegate all of your marketing tasks and projects to a team of human professionals with 13 different skill sets. And there's no limit on how much you can delegate. The plans scale up and down based on your budget and how much you need to get done. And you can start delegating to an entire team of marketing pros for less than the cost of hiring one full-time VA. So it's incredibly valuable. This is the solution that I wish I had when I first started my company because, again, it's just an all-in-one team and you can delegate basically anything in terms of digital marketing. And again, I want to emphasize it's a team of humans with human taste. So we bring all the benefits of that capability to the table for you. And where it is appropriate, we use AI tools to help speed up the workflow. But again, we're putting it through our own human QA filter. Okay, so you get fast delivery, but you also get everything quality checked and edited by your team of human pros. So check us out if you're interested in that at Grobo.com.